Sarah Martinez's hands trembled as she wrote the word help on a napkin at the upscale restaurant where she worked. She'd been serving tables for 12 hours straight, her feet aching, her smile forced through exhaustion and fear. Her ex-boyfriend had just texted her a photo of her 7-year-old daughter, Emma, with a chilling message. "Pay me what you owe, or you'll never see her again." Sarah had no money to pay him, no one to turn to, until the man at table 15, a billionaire named Michael Chen, noticed a napkin before anyone else could, and everything changed. The Sterling Room was Manhattan's most exclusive restaurant, where the wealthy came to dine on meals that cost more than Sarah's monthly rent. Crystal chandeliers cast soft golden light over white tablecloths. Classical piano music drifted through the air. Every detail whispered luxury and privilege, things Sarah could only dream about. Sarah had worked there for 6 months, grateful for the job despite the grueling hours. The tips were better than anywhere else she'd worked, and she needed every penny. She was a single mother fighting to provide for Emma while drowning in debt from medical bills after her daughter's emergency appendectomy last year. Tonight was supposed to be like any other shift. Smile at the wealthy diners, take their orders, pretend her own problems didn't exist. But then her phone buzzed in her apron pocket during her break, and her world collapsed. The text from Derek, Emma's father and Sarah's abusive ex-boyfriend, showed Emma sitting on an unfamiliar couch, looking scared. The message made Sarah's blood run cold. "You owe me $5,000 for helping with Emma's surgery. Pay by midnight tonight, or I'm taking her somewhere you'll never find her. I have custody rights, too." Sarah's heart pounded. Derek had no custody rights. He'd abandoned them when Emma was 2, but he was manipulative, dangerous, and apparently willing to kidnap his own daughter for money. Sarah had called the police before, but Derek was careful, never left evidence, always made it seem like misunderstandings. Sarah had exactly $247 in her bank account, no family nearby, no close friends with that kind of money. She was utterly, terrifyingly alone. Her manager called her back to the floor. Sarah moved mechanically, taking orders, serving food, her mind racing with panic. How could she save Emma? What could she possibly do? At table 15 sat a man Sarah had served several times before. Michael Chen, though Sarah didn't know his name, or that he was the billionaire CEO of Chen Technologies. She only knew he was polite, quiet, and always left generous tips. Tonight, he sat alone, reading something on his tablet, occasionally glancing up at the restaurant around him. Sarah approached his table to refill his water. Her hands shook so badly that water splashed on the tablecloth. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, her voice cracking. Michael looked up, his expression shifting from surprise to concern. "Are you all right?" "I'm fine," Sarah lied, quickly wiping the spill. But tears were forming in her eyes despite her effort to hold them back. "You're clearly not fine," Michael said gently. "What's wrong?" Sarah shook her head, unable to speak without breaking down completely. She turned to leave, but Michael's voice stopped her. "Wait. If you need help, you can tell me." Sarah looked at the stranger, this wealthy man who probably couldn't imagine the kind of problem she faced. But desperation pushed words from her mouth before she could stop them. "My ex-boyfriend kidnapped my daughter. He wants $5,000 by midnight, or he says I'll never see her again. I don't have the money. I have nowhere to turn." Michael's expression hardened with immediate concern. "Have you called the police?" "They can't help. He's done this before, makes threats, then backs down. They say it's a custody dispute. But I'm running out of time and I'm terrified." Sarah's manager appeared, seeing her talking too long at a customer's table. "Sarah, other tables need you." Sarah nodded, hastily pulling the napkin from her apron where she'd scribbled, "Help," during a moment of complete desperation, planning to what? Leave it somewhere? Show it to someone? She didn't know. But as she turned to walk away, the napkin slipped from her trembling fingers and fluttered onto Michael's table. Michael looked down at the single word written in shaky handwriting, help. He picked up the napkin, his jaw setting with determination. Sarah, that is your name, right? She nodded, frozen. I'm going to help you, Michael said quietly. But I need you to trust me. Can you do that? Sarah's throat was too tight to speak. She managed a small nod. Good. Finish your shift. Meet me outside in 1 hour. We're going to get your daughter back. Sarah could barely focus for the next hour. Her mind spun with 1,000 questions. Why would this stranger help her? What if it was a trick? What if Derek heard Emma before they could reach her? But what choice did she have? When her shift ended at 11 p.m., Sarah found Michael waiting outside the restaurant beside a sleek black car. A woman stood with him, sharp, professional, holding a tablet. Sarah, this is Rebecca, my attorney, Michael explained. I've already had her research your situation. Tell us everything about Derek, his full name, where he might be, anything you know. Sarah poured out the story as they drove. Derek Thompson, her ex, his history of manipulation and threats, the text messages, the photo of Emma. Rebecca typed rapidly, making calls, setting things in motion that Sarah couldn't fully understand. I've contacted the FBI, Rebecca said calmly. Parental kidnapping across state lines is a federal crime if he's moved her. I've also got a private investigator tracking his phone location. FBI, Sarah whispered. I'm just a waitress. They won't care about my daughter. They'll care because I'm making them care, Michael said firmly. Money buys access, Sarah. I'm using mine to help you. Sarah looked at this man who was somehow mobilizing resources she'd never dreamed of accessing. Why are you doing this? You don't even know me. Michael was quiet for a moment, staring out at the city lights flashing past. 20 years ago, I was a scared kid living in a homeless shelter with my mother. She worked 3 jobs but could barely feed us. One night, she got sick, really sick. We had no money for a doctor, no insurance. A stranger saw us at the shelter and paid for her emergency room visit, paid for her medication, saved her life. That stranger never gave us their name, just helped and left. Michael turned to look at Sarah. I've spent 20 years building my company, making money, wondering if I'd ever get the chance to be that stranger for someone else. Tonight, you gave me that chance. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Your mother, is she? She's alive and well, living in California. She still tells that story about the stranger who helped when no one else would. Michael's voice softened. I built my company on the belief that wealth should be used to protect the vulnerable. Tonight, that's Emma. The car pulled up to a motel on the outskirts of the city, the location Rebecca's investigator had tracked Derek to. Police cars were already there, lights flashing. FBI agents in windbreakers stood talking with local officers. They're here because of you? Sarah asked in disbelief. They're here because a child is in danger, Michael corrected. That's all that matters. An FBI agent approached. Ms. Martinez, we have officers surrounding the room where your ex-boyfriend is staying. We've confirmed through the window that a child matching Emma's description is inside. He's alone with her. We're ready to move in. Sarah couldn't breathe. Emma was so close. So close, but still in danger. We'll get her out safely, the agent assured her. Stay here with Mr. Chen. We'll bring Emma to you. The next 15 minutes felt like 15 hours. Sarah watched from behind a police car as agents approached the motel room. She heard shouting, Derek's voice angry and desperate, then silence, then more shouting. Finally, the door opened. An agent emerged, carrying Emma in her arms. Emma's face was tear-stained and frightened, but she was unharmed. Mommy, Emma cried out. Sarah ran forward, and the agent handed Emma to her. Sarah collapsed to her knees, holding her daughter, sobbing with relief so intense it physically hurt. I was so scared, Mommy, Emma cried. Daddy said we were going on a trip, but I wanted you. I wanted you. I know, baby. I know. You're safe now. You're safe. Derek was let out in handcuffs, shouting threats and accusations. Sarah didn't even look at him. She just held Emma, rocking back and forth, whispering reassurances. Michael stood at a distance, watching the reunion with tears in his own eyes. This was why he'd worked so hard, why he'd built his fortune. For moments like this, for the chance to be the stranger who helped when no one else could. Rebecca approached him quietly. The FBI says Derek had plane tickets to Mexico. He was planning to disappear with Emma tonight. If Sarah hadn't asked for help, if you hadn't acted immediately. But we did, Michael said. That's what matters. 3 days later, Sarah sat in Michael's office, a place she'd never imagined she'd be. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Manhattan. Modern art adorned the walls. Everything spoke of success, power, and wealth. But Michael made her feel comfortable, not intimidated. "How's Emma?" he asked, offering Sarah coffee. "She's okay. Shaken, but okay. My neighbor's watching her while I'm here. She's been clingy, understandably. The therapist you arranged says that's normal." "I'm glad the therapist is helping," Michael said. He'd arranged and paid for trauma counseling for both Sarah and Emma. He'd also connected Sarah with a lawyer to file for full custody and a restraining order against Derek, who was now facing federal kidnapping charges. "Michael, I need to ask you something," Sarah said, setting down her coffee. "Why did you do all this? Really, it's more than just remembering a stranger who helped your mother. You spent tens of thousands of dollars on lawyers, investigators, therapy. You barely know me." Michael was quiet, gathering his thoughts. Finally, he spoke. "Do you know what it's like to be powerless? To watch someone you love suffer and not be able to help?" Sarah nodded. "Every day of my life. I felt that way as a kid, watching my mother work herself to exhaustion, watching her cry when she couldn't afford my school supplies, feeling helpless." Michael's eyes grew distant. "When I made my first $1 million, I thought I'd feel powerful. But I didn't. I felt guilty. Why did I have so much when others had so little? So you started helping people?" "I tried. I donated to charities, funded programs. But it all felt distant, abstract. I was writing checks, not changing lives." Michael leaned forward. "Then I saw you write help on that napkin. I saw real desperation, real fear, and I realized I had the power to actually help. Immediately, directly, to be the person my mother's stranger was for us." "You saved my daughter's life," Sarah said, her voice thick with emotion. "No, Sarah, you saved your daughter's life by being brave enough to ask for help. That takes tremendous courage." Michael pulled out a folder. "Which brings me to why I asked you here. I have a proposition." Sarah's stomach tightened nervously. "I need someone to run my foundation, the Chen Family Foundation. We fund education, healthcare, and emergency assistance programs. The current director is retiring. I've been looking for someone who understands what it means to need help, someone who's lived on the edge of survival, someone with empathy, courage, and determination." Sarah's eyes widened. "You can't mean me. I'm a waitress. I have no degree in nonprofit management or... You have something more valuable than a degree. You have experience. You know what it's like to be desperate, to have nowhere to turn. That's the perspective I need leading this foundation. We'll provide training, of course, but the heart of it, the understanding that you already have. What about Emma? I can't work long hours. I need to be home. The position is flexible. Work from home when you need to. Bring Emma to the office if necessary. I'm not interested in overworking you, Sarah. I'm interested in empowering you to help others the way I helped you." Sarah's hands trembled. "This is too much. I can't accept." "You can and you will," Michael said gently but firmly. "Think about it. Think about all the other single mothers out there writing help on napkins. All the desperate people with nowhere to turn. You can be the person who sees them, who helps them. Isn't that worth accepting help yourself?" Sarah closed her eyes. tears streaming down her face. A week ago, she'd been drowning. Now, this stranger, this incredible human being, was offering her not just rescue, but purpose. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I'll do it." Michael smiled. "Welcome to the team. Your first task as Foundation Director, help me identify 10 families in crisis who need immediate assistance. You know better than anyone what that looks like." Sarah laughed through her tears. "I think I can do that," as she left Michael's office. Sarah looked back. "Michael, thank you for seeing me, for helping, for believing I was worth saving." "Sarah, everyone is worth saving," Michael said. "We just need more people willing to look up from their tables and notice when someone writes help on a napkin." 1 year later, Sarah stood on a stage at the Chen Family Foundation's annual gala. She wore a simple but elegant dress, purchased with her own money from her new salary. Emma sat in the front row, beaming with pride at her mother. Beside Emma sat Michael's mother, who'd flown in from California specifically for this event. Sarah had prepared a speech, but standing at the microphone, looking at the hundreds of wealthy donors in the audience, she decided to speak from her heart instead. "A year ago, I was a waitress working 12-hour shifts to survive. I was terrified, desperate, and utterly alone. My daughter had been kidnapped by my abusive ex-boyfriend. I had no money, no resources, no hope. In my darkest moment, I wrote the word help on a napkin." Sarah paused, emotion thick in her throat. "I didn't know what I expected. Maybe I thought someone would see it and at least acknowledge my pain. Maybe I thought it would be my last prayer to the universe. But I never expected a stranger at table 15 to not only see that napkin, but to mobilize the FBI, pay for lawyers and therapists, and ultimately offer me a job running this foundation." The audience murmured appreciatively. "Michael Chen saved my daughter's life. But more than that, he showed me something I'd forgotten, that asking for help isn't weakness. It's courage, and that sometimes help comes from the most unexpected places." Sarah looked directly at Michael, who sat at a table with his mother, both of them smiling at her. In the past year, this foundation has helped 347 families facing desperate situations. Single mothers escaping abuse, families drowning in medical debt, children who needed emergency intervention. Each one of them was someone's napkin with help written on it. And we noticed, we helped, because Michael taught me that wealth isn't measured by what you have. It's measured by what you do with what you have. The audience applauded, but Sarah wasn't finished. "I want to introduce you to someone," Sarah said. "Mrs. Linda Chen, Michael's mother, is here tonight. 20 years ago, Mrs. Chen was a single mother living in a homeless shelter, working 3 jobs, struggling to keep her son fed. One night, when she became desperately ill, a stranger paid for her emergency room visit, paid for her medication, saved her life. That stranger never gave their name, never asked for thanks, just helped and disappeared." Michael's mother stood, tears streaming down her face as the audience applauded. "That stranger's kindness rippled forward," Sarah continued. "It inspired Michael to build his fortune on the principle of helping others. And when I wrote help on a napkin, Michael's response rippled forward again. To me, to Emma, to the hundreds of families we've helped this year. And now, those families are rippling kindness forward to others." Sarah's voice strengthened with passion. "This is what I've learned. We're all one bad day away from writing help on a napkin, one emergency, one unexpected crisis. And we're all also one choice away from being the person who notices, who helps, who changes a life." She looked around the room at the wealthy donors. "You're here tonight because you have resources. You have power. I'm asking you to use it. Notice the desperate people around you, the servers at your restaurants, the janitors in your offices, the strangers on the street who seem to be struggling. You have the power to see them, to help them, to be someone stranger who changes everything." The audience rose in a standing ovation. Sarah stepped back from the microphone, overwhelmed. Michael came onto the stage and hugged her. "You're a natural," he whispered. "My mother would be so proud. I'm so proud." After the gala, Sarah found Michael on the building's rooftop terrace, looking out at the glittering city lights. "You know what's amazing?" Sarah said, standing beside him. "A year ago, I looked at the city and saw only obstacles. Buildings full of wealthy people who wouldn't notice me if I vanished tomorrow. Now I look at it and see possibility. Every light is a person, some helping, some hurting, some writing help on napkins, some ready to notice. That's what happens when you've been rescued," Michael said. "You start seeing rescue missions everywhere." They stood in comfortable silence. Two people who'd learned that the distance between desperation and hope is sometimes just one person willing to look up and notice, one stranger willing to help, one act of kindness that ripples forward through time, changing lives in ways we can never fully measure. Sarah thought about the napkin, now framed in her office, a reminder of her darkest moment and her greatest transformation. She thought about Emma, safe and thriving, no longer looking over her shoulder in fear. She thought about the families they'd helped this year, each one someone's answered prayer. "Michael," Sarah said quietly, "I never asked, did you ever find the stranger who helped your mother? Did you ever get to thank them?" Michael shook his head. "No, we tried for years, but they remained anonymous, which taught me something important. The greatest acts of kindness don't seek recognition. They just seek impact. But you know what?" Michael continued. "Every time I help someone, I feel like I'm saying thank you to that stranger. Every life we change with foundation, every person we rescue from their darkest moment. That's my thank you. That's how I honor what that stranger did for us." Sarah smiled. "Then every person I help is my thank you to you. And every person they help will be their thank you to you," Michael said. "That's how it works. Kindness creates more kindness. Help creates more help. One napkin with help written on it starts a chain reaction that never ends." Emma appeared in the doorway to the rooftop, looking for her mother. Sarah opened her arms, and Emma ran into them. Michael's mother followed, smiling at the scene. "You know what I'm going to teach Emma?" Sarah said, holding her daughter close. "I'm going to teach her to notice, to see people who are struggling, to never be too busy, too wealthy, or too comfortable to help someone who needs it. I'm going to teach her that writing help takes courage, and responding to help takes character. And I'm going to teach her," Michael added, kneeling down at Emma's level, "that someday she might be the billionaire at table 15, or she might be the waitress writing on the napkin. Either way, the lesson is the same. We're all connected. We all matter. And we all have the power to change someone's life if we just pay attention." Emma looked between the adults, not fully understanding, but sensing the importance of the moment. "Mr. Michael, why are you and Mommy always talking about napkins?" Everyone laughed. Sarah kissed her daughter's head. "Because, sweetheart, sometimes the smallest things, a napkin, a word, a moment of courage, can change everything." As they left the rooftop together, this found family built on crisis and kindness, Sarah looked back at the city one more time. Somewhere out there, someone was writing help on something. A napkin, a note, a prayer whispered into the darkness. And somewhere, she hoped, someone was noticing. Someone was helping. Someone was continuing the chain reaction that started 20 years ago with a stranger at a hospital, continued a year ago with Michael at table 15, and would ripple forward forever. Because that's what kindness does. It doesn't end. It multiplies. It transforms. It saves lives and creates new rescuers. It turns waitresses into foundation directors and frightened children into empowered adults. All because someone noticed a word on a napkin. All because someone chose to help instead of looking away. That's not just kindness. That's humanity at its best. That's the power each of us holds. To see, to care, to act, to change everything for one person, which ultimately changes everything for many. And it starts with something as simple as noticing, as simple as caring, as simple as being the person who sees help written on a napkin and decides right then that this is the moment to be someone's answered prayer. Because we all write help sometimes, and we all have the power to answer it. That's the lesson. That's the truth. That's the chain reaction that never ends, as long as we keep noticing, keep caring, keep helping. One napkin at a time, one person at a time, one life at a time, until the whole world is connected by invisible threads of kindness, rescue, and the beautiful truth that none of us are ever truly alone, as long as we remember to notice each other. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video. It helps us share more beautiful stories like this one. Oh, also, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel Deep Cut Stories for more emotional stories about love, kindness, and fate that'll touch your heart deeply. Thank you for watching.